Hi everyone, my name is Mike Robertson, and today I want to talk to you a little bit about the bandsaw. Now, this bandsaw is a 14-inch bandsaw. It's the distance across. This is a fairly standard size. I have a 6 TPI, that's 6 teeth per inch, quarter-inch blade on there, and you can fit a wide range of blades on these. This is kind of a pretty standard blade for most anything you want to do. So, some basics here. Let's start off. Terms. This whole part here is the guard assembly. There can be a bushing on either side of the blade like this, or bearings on either side of the blade. And there's a similar setup below this table as well, so both of them have to be adjusted properly. Now, there's a bearing bushing on each side, and there's also one behind the blade, so that when you're pushing the stock through, it prevents the blade from going off the back of the rollers. There's a roller on the top and a roller on the bottom. Now, they have to be adjusted properly, which in most cases means that these bushings are almost like a paper width away from touching the blade. Same thing on the bottom. And this bearing, when it runs through, this bearing should come right up and be the same thing, about a paper width off from the back of the blade. This is just rough. I mean, of course you want to read your manufacturer's instructions, but that's ballpark. Now, this guard assembly, from whatever stock you're cutting, you want the guard assembly to be roughly 1/4 inch up off the stock. So fairly close. That'll help the blade go quite true. Now, if the blade is pulling hard to one side or the other, that probably means that you hit something with it and the set's off on one side or the other. So you'll probably just have to get a new blade. If you have a larger machine with a carbide blade, you might be able to have those sharpened. If not, just a new blade. So, a few other things. If you're cutting any types of round stock, cylindrical stock, dowels, those kind of things, you really want to cut a V-block or avoid cutting them at all. So, dowel, just something like this, tends to catch the blade and roll, or the blade tends to roll the dowel, so you want to be careful with that. Now, depending on what kind of a curve you're cutting, inside or outside, you're going to want to make some relief cuts. So, something like this is an inside curve. I could probably make that. So you check the radius of the curve against the width of the blade. If I had like a 3/4 inch blade or something on here, or even a 1/2 inch, might be kind of tight for this. This outside one, I should be fine. Now, a relief cut is simply where you turn the machine on, cut almost right up to your line, but not quite. Keeping your fingers back at least 2 inches or so from the blade. You always want to keep your fingers a couple inches away from the blade. So we cut right up to it, and you'll notice that I shut the machine off before I pulled this back. The reason for that being is that if the machine's running and you back out of a cut, it can pull the blade right off the rollers. There's no bearing in the front to hold it on like there is in back when you're pushing on it. So you never want to back out of a cut. If at all possible, just don't do it. Now, so that's a relief cut. Now when we cut around, that portion of the wood will simply just fall away and it'll be easy to keep cutting. It'll prevent the blade from binding. If I'm cutting a very long board, let's say I have a 4 or 5 foot board, you want someone on the other side just to support it. That's called tailing off the stock. Same thing on the table saw or most any machine. Tailing off stocks is a pretty normal term. Now, the person on the other side, like I said, you don't want them to pull it or steer it. The person on this end controls absolutely everything. The reason for that being that you don't want someone to pull the stock and the person on this end would then end up with their finger in the blade. It would be very bad. So having said that, just to avoid any accidents, you want to avoid having your fingers in line with the blade or in the path of the blade. In a bandsaw, those can be two different things. In this case, the path of the blade is a curve. So over here could be the path of the blade. So in line with the blade would be straight ahead, or in path of the blade is wherever the blade is going to be. So we can go ahead and, the main reason we cut curves on here is the blade is so small. But you don't simply want to just twist the stock. As you start going through, you have to move it forward when you rotate the stock. You'll see that that piece just fell away. And as with the table saw and other pieces of machinery, use a scrap board to push this away from the blade. It's very tempting just to flick that away, but you want to be careful. And just put that piece away, use a scrap board. So the rest of this. side curve, as I said, the biggest thing is you just keep rotating this as you push it through to make the curve. Biggest two problems I see most beginners make in the bandsaw. One, when they try to cut it, they try twisting and rotating the board without moving forward. That's a huge mistake. Don't do that. Again, that could take the set out of the teeth too if you do it improperly. And the other thing is, if you had a large pattern you're cutting out on here, backing out of cuts. They pop the blade off the front, the teeth hit something, you know, and it either snaps the blade or it breaks it. It breaks it in terms of throwing the set off. Other things we want to cover, let's see, a clicking noise, that's a good one. Something else we want to cover with this is a clicking noise. A clicking noise may indicate that the blade is starting to break or it will break very soon. These blades, it's just cut off a large strip and weld it together. So quite often that weld starts to break and you'll hear that weld go around and tick on everything. So tick, tick, tick. If you hear a ticking noise, stop the machine, unplug the machine. You're going to want to inspect your blade. So watch out for that. So the bandsaw is a great universal machine that probably, if at all possible, most people should try to have in their shop. Most things you can do on here, you could probably do with a jigsaw too. It's just not nearly as convenient. So as always, make sure to read the manufacturer's instructions, both safety instructions and operating instructions, and stay safe and have fun. Thanks.